Hello, my beautiful people! So, we're currently on week 3 of Marvel Month. So, for this video, I decided to take a look at a pretty big controversy that has been going around social media for the past few weeks or so. That being the entirety of Phase 4. But why do people hate Phase 4 so much?
It makes perfect sense, really. Endgame ended things off pretty perfectly. The culmination of 21 other films, leading up to what would become the highest grossing film of all time for a while. So naturally, when Marvel would continue with a Phase 4, people will be excited for more MCU content, but it'll also throw some people off who thought that Endgame was the perfect finale, especially since there's more content than ever thanks to the Disney Plus shows, and that a good amount of the projects like Black Widow, What If, and Eternals weren't received that well. It leaves people to think that Disney is just milking the MCU until it's dry.
Wait, that's not why people are mad at Phase 4? Well, then it must be because people are just marveled out, since last year there were a total of 9 MCU titles, 5 of them being Disney Plus shows. Wait, that's not why people are mad either? Then why do people hate Phase 4? You fucking people. Yes, many people hate the MCU now, not because of the movies themselves, but because of good old-fashioned sexism, with many people calling it the MCU. Very clever, by the way. But why? Why are so many people calling it that, and why do so many sexists suddenly just hate the MCU now? Well, let's find out.
In 1961, the Marvel Universe was officially born with the Fantastic Four #1, created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. The members of the Fantastic Four consisted of Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic, Johnny Storm, aka the Human Torch, Ben Grimm, aka The Thing, and Marvel's first female superhero, Susan Storm, aka the Invisible Girl. Though Marvel had superheroes before this series, this was the book that started the idea of all of Marvel's superhero books taking place within the same universe. Marvel would of course make hundreds of heroes and hero teams, with there being just as many male heroes as there are female.
The point is, female superheroes have always been around since the literal birth of the Marvel Universe. Now granted, they haven't always been written well. I'm looking at you, X-Men #1. But they've always been there, and for a good amount of Marvel's history, they have been given a great amount of respect. Now the MCU, on the other hand, well, that's a different story.
Throughout the entirety of Phase 1 of the MCU, there's only been one female hero, Natasha Romanov, aka Black Widow. Unless you want to count Lady Sif, which she technically is, but she's not an Avenger, and she doesn't ever team up with any of them outside of Thor, so she doesn't count for the sake of this video. But anyway, Natasha was introduced in Iron Man 2, and she sucked. Looking back at the film, all I can really remember about Nat's character is that she's hot and can fight good. That's it. Her next appearance in the Avengers is a bit better, but knowing what we know now about how horrible of a person the film's director, Joss Whedon, is, I can't help but feel bad for Scarlett Johansson, since she had to walk around in that skimpy outfit for weeks. Not to mention her writing isn't necessarily the best. Thankfully, her next appearance in Captain America the Winter Soldier fleshes out her character more thanks to the gifts from God that are the Russo brothers. Then Marvel released their next film, Guardians of the Galaxy, Among the film's cast of colorful characters, one of them is Marvel's next female hero, Gamora, the daughter of Thanos. And her sister Nebula is one of the villains. And she's also Marvel's first female villain. There actually was supposed to be a female villain in Iron Man 3, but the head of Marvel at the time, Ike Perlmutter, thought that a woman wouldn't make a very interesting villain.
Yeah, Perlmutter is infamously sexist, and bigoted in general. While he did help the MCU get off the ground in its first couple of phases, the guy is just a horrible person, to the point where Kevin Feige went directly to then Disney CEO Bob Iger and demanded that Perlmutter get demoted so that Feige wouldn't have to deal with his shit anymore, and so that he could make more ambitious projects like Civil War. Because the guy is also infamously cheap. For instance, for Civil War, instead of Tony Stark, he wanted the Hulk, because Mark Ruffalo was significantly cheaper than Robert Downey Jr.
So the reason abortion is a thing was let go, and now Feige has complete control over the MCU. And over the course of Phase 3, we would be introduced to several new female heroes. And in 2019, we get Marvel's first solo female superhero movie, Captain Marvel, which didn't go over very well. But why? Well, when the first few images for Captain Marvel were released, many trolls online were complaining that Brie Larson wasn't smiling enough in shots. I have no idea why this would piss anyone off, since there's been several instances of superheroes not smiling, but it did, making several people correct this mistake. But crap really hit the fan when Larson said that there are too many white male critics, which is fair, because even today we see white male critics give negative reviews of films with a diverse cast, simply because they can't relate to them. This led to several anti-SJWs leaving negative reviews of the film on Rotten Tomatoes before it even came out.
This is something that happened a lot in Hollywood at the time. A new entry in a popular franchise comes out. The film features an all-female cast in a franchise that was previously all-male. Fans of the series bitch and whine about it on YouTube and Twitter, and ultimately leading to the film becoming a box office flop. Two pretty infamous examples of these are Ghostbusters 2016 and Ocean's 8.
Both instances were attempts to make an all-female reboot of a franchise that was previously all men. I don't have to tell you how much of a disaster Ghostbusters 2016 was. Everyone's talked about it, but just as a brief refresher, the trailer was released and people hated it for a variety of reasons. I hate it because the jokes were cringy as frick, and all the behind-the-scenes issues around the third Ghostbusters film, but a lot of other people hated it simply because they thought women can't be Ghostbusters, even though there's female Ghostbusters in the past. When the film came out, it got very mixed reviews, but was ultimately a box office flop, and the same can be said for Ocean's 8. However, in between these films, there was another film that got sexists mad, but was actually a hit, that being Star Wars The Last Jedi. While the film did definitely receive online hate, especially with the character Rose, it was a massive hit at the box office, earning over $1 billion, and the same can be said for Captain Marvel. I personally thought that the movie was okay, not the worst MCU film, but definitely one of the lesser ones. But the film was also a success that grossed over $1 billion. So, take that, geeks and gamers!
Moving ahead to 2021, the MCU has entered Phase 4. And with the release of Disney+, the Marvel Universe could be expanded like never before with Disney Plus original series. Unlike the ABC and Netflix shows of old, These shows would tie directly into the main MCU and be produced by Marvel Studios.
The first entry of Phase 4 was released in January 2021, that being the first 2 episodes of WandaVision, Wanda Maximoff's solo series. WandaVision also served as the introduction to 2 new characters, the hero Monica Rambeau and the villain Agatha Harkness. And throughout the rest of Phase 4, we would continue to get several brand new female heroes and a couple brand new female villains, the grand majority of them getting their own shows and a good... Oh my god, that is just horrifying. Please just get that abomination off the screen. God.
And I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but the MCU has mostly consisted of films starring white males. So with Phase 4 coming around, and we do get that female representation, along with Black, Deaf, LGBT, Asian, Egyptian, and more, yeah, a lot of so-called fans aren't gonna be very happy about that.
Now, you might be wondering why this part of the video is being recorded on my webcam. Well, I ran out of time. So please excuse the shitty video quality as I try to make a pretty good point about the MCU fandom and sexism. I unplugged the light. We have fun times here at Mr. Johnson headquarters. So the funny thing about fandoms is that I know for a fact that there are people out there who just love a specific IP and just want to express that love onto other people, and there's nothing wrong with that. With every single fan base, you will find a few bad apples that make the entire fandom look like idiots. Case in point, the many anti-SJW YouTubers. You all know who I'm talking about, right? You know, the Quartering, Clownfish TV, Geeks and Gamers, Nerdrotic, those guys. These are all news and commentary channels about geeky stuff, comics, and all sorts of different things that geeks enjoy. But what makes these channels different from something like, I don't know, Double Toasted is that they're fucking insane! Rather than basing their videos on, research and facts, the grand majority of their videos are based on misinformation and bigotry. And bigotry to basically everyone who isn't a cisgendered white male. You bet your ass cheeks that when Marvel started to get more diverse in their movies and shows, talk about white male rage. Claiming that Marvel went woke, nobody wants this woke garbage, and that Phase 4 itself is consisting of nothing but failures. First of all, what do you mean Marvel went woke? Marvel has been woke for a long time. I mean, did we all just forget the fact that they made the first black superhero, the first female superhero, the first blind superhero, the first gay superhero, and the fact that the X-Men are literally meant to represent any group that has been marginalized or oppressed in history? A little bit off subject, but me personally, I personally see the most with the LGBTQ plus community when I look at the mutants and the X-Men, especially since, well, it's more of like an uncontrollable thing, like more of like inside you, pretty much, and it typically is discovered around puberty, and they're usually kicked out of their homes, and specifically that talk in X2. And not to mention, there are quite a few mutants that are LGBT, such as Kitty Pryde and Iceman, but, they are basically meant to represent all minorities in the big vacuum. But anyway, back on subject. I also say that nobody wants or likes them. Although, if you look up the reviews for basically the grand majority of Phase 4, you'd see that people really like these. Who would have thought? The only film in Phase 4 to get a rotten review or a rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes is Eternals. But that's mainly because it was filled with a whole bunch of review bombing featuring people who were bitching and whining about diversity in the film, and the grand majority of them haven't even watched the fucking movie. And all the other negative reviews for Eternals had nothing to do with the diversity, more for the fact that the film was overloaded with a bunch of shit, and they really needed multiple movies to flesh out this story or a Disney Plus series. And with all this bullshit, I'm just like, gee, have it ever occurred to you that maybe you're in the minority here? You're the one who doesn't like this wokeness while everybody else is like, hey, this is some pretty cool diversity. You do know that Black Panther, for a good amount of time, was the highest grossing MCU solo film, right? Granted, it was beaten out by No Way Home, but still! What really gets me is when people say that Phase 4 is a failure. Even though, along with the Star Wars shows, the MCU shows are the most streamed shows on Disney Plus. And as for the movies, Shang-Chi ended up bringing people back to the theaters. Eternals did decently well. And not to mention, Spider-Man No Way Home fucking destroyed the box office. As for Black Widow, yes, it is the third lowest grossing MCU movie, but that mainly has to do with COVID and the fact that the film was simultaneously released on Disney Plus. Not because Black Widow has titties! These fucking people just make me pissed off. I do agree that Phase 4 is far from perfect. WandaVision started off very strong, but by the end of the series, it kind of fell into the generic MCU trap. Black Widow felt like it should have been released years ago, and not to mention what they did with Taskmaster was pretty lame. What If was really a mixed bag, with some episodes being really good, and other episodes I'm struggling to remember even existed. Eternals was just a mess altogether. And a massive disappointment given its director and how the movie was marketed. Absolutely none of these projects are bad because of what race, gender, sexuality, religion, whatever the main character or even the director is. That's just fucking stupid to judge a movie's quality on whether or not the main character has a dick or not. In someone's pants does not make their character. Yes, you do get some instances where it feels like the filmmakers are rather pandering rather than actually care about diversity. Disney's 6 millionth first gay character. But the grand majority of the time, especially with Marvel recently, it comes across as genuine. And yes, Marvel has been a victim of this type of pandering in the past. Like, Captain Marvel definitely felt more pandering than actual women empowerment most of the time. Captain Marvel, in general, as a movie, was mostly just, It's a reason why I'm actually looking forward to the Marvels, because it does feature Monica Rambeau, who I really enjoyed in WandaVision, and it will feature Kamala Khan, who I really enjoy in the comics, and I feel like I'm really going to enjoy her in her own show, and I hope that the Marvels will improve upon the mistakes from Captain Marvel, and we get to enjoy her character even more thanks to the sequel. One of the things I've really been enjoying about Phase 4 is that we have had several side characters get their time to shine, whether it be WandaVision, Loki, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Black Widow, technically, and Hawkeye. And technically, we will be getting that with She-Hulk, but like, Hulk is technically a main character because he did have his own movie, but he hasn't had a movie since then. Back on to the representation. Representation means a lot to some people. To a kid, seeing a superhero who looks like them on their screen or in their comics does a lot. And it does the job at saying that anyone can be a superhero. That's one of the reasons why Spider-Man's mask covers his entire face. Stanley said that the reason Spider-Man's mask covers his entire face is so that literally anybody could be underneath that mask. Anybody could be Spider-Man and anybody could be a hero. So just imagine a little girl seeing Captain Marvel or Black Widow kick some ass. A little black kid seeing Black Panther or the Falcon kick some ass. A little gay kid seeing Fastos or America Chavez kick some ass. A little deaf kid seeing McCurry or Echo kick ass. You get the point, right? And to these content creators who are bitching and whining about this so-called forced diversity, may I ask you a question? A few questions. Imagine being oppressed. Imagine for decades, centuries even, society has given you the short end of the stick. You have been treated like absolute dog shit. And every time society seems to be getting better in treating you right, some old fuck continues to take a few steps backwards. Then you turn on your TV, or go to the movies, or read a comic book. And then you see some superheroes who look like you, talk like you, sound things like you. They do the same things as you, they like the same things as you. Wouldn't that feel so inspiring? Wouldn't that feel like you could be a superhero? And another question. You guys are aware that female superheroes have existed since the 40s, right? And Marvel's had them since the 60s. This is what I've been talking about for the past 20 minutes. Marvel has just as many female superheroes as they do male superheroes. I mean, you got She-Hulk, you got Miss Marvel, you got Black Widow, you got the Invisible Woman, you got the Wasp, you got the many female mutants such as Kitty Pryde, Jean Grey, Storm, the Scarlet Witch, Black Cat, Gwenpool, Lady Deadpool, Spider-Gwen. There's a lot of fucking women superheroes in Marvel. Complaining whenever the MCU introduces a new character who just so happens to be a woman and is from the comics as well, there is no point in you complaining about it. Marvel wouldn't be like forcing diversity down people's throats because here's a bright idea. Sorry that I just hit the mic there. Because here's a bright idea. Maybe, just maybe, someone's gender or someone's race or someone's religion could be a huge part of who they are. You guys would be perfectly okay if there's a superhero out there where being a Christian is a huge part of who they are, but as soon as you have someone who, with like Miss Marvel, who being Muslim is a big part of who she is, you're on Twitter going about, oh, Marvel's forcing diversity down her throat. Oh, why won't she shut up about forced diversity? Shut up about her religion. Ah! I know that some of you in the audience are probably thinking, what is this white male complaining about the lack of female representation or the lack of black representation in media and the fact that these anti-SJWs should shut the fuck up? Well, I might not be in the great majority of those minority groups, but but I do know not to be an asshole to people who are in those groups and who want to see more representation of those groups in movies and TV shows. So I'd like to end this video with two statements. One, these are just superhero movies. Did you just forget about that? Like, why are you getting so fucking angry over movies and TV shows where people fly and shoot beams out of their hands? There's a lot of shooting shit out of your hands in superhero movies. Secondly, why use the term go woke, go broke? Because let's really break that down. This isn't really a Marvel specific thing. This is more like general anti-woke culture. Like, why use that term, go woke, go broke? The definition of woke is basically anti-racist. I'm literally reading the definition of woke right now, and it's alert to injustice in society, especially racism. Now, that definition definitely does apply to some of Phase 4, most notably The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like, that show is very woke. For some reason, you people are screaming that movies like Sonic the Hedgehog 2 are woke liberal propaganda. The Talking Hedgehog movie? Like, I feel like the only reason you're saying that is because the movie has count 'em, 4 black actors. One of them is the voice of Knuckles. Wow. Back to Marvel. The term go woke, go broke makes zero fucking sense. May I remind you how much Pride merch and BLM merch sells? Especially during June and February? And in relation to Marvel, may I remind you that for 3 straight years, Black Panther was the highest grossing MCU solo movie. Disney is one of those few companies out there who recognizes the fact that being woke is very financially successful. Like, if you promote being woke in your movies and shows and your whatever, people will really enjoy that because it is promoting this woke shit. You idiots will literally talk about, like, if a movie or show has a lead that is a woman, that is black, that is gay, that is whatever, you will automatically declare it being woke without it having any type of political statement on social injustice. Because judging off of that definition that I stated, there isn't really a whole lot of MCU content that fits that bill. There's Black Panther, there's The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and that's about it. In conclusion, Marvel has been woke for a very long time, and Marvel's wokeness is not going away anytime soon. Because Stan Lee said that Marvel will always reflect the world around us. And that world has always been changing, but something that will not change will be the way that Marvel tells their stories. And that these stories will be for literally everybody, regardless of race, gender, sexuality, religion, color of your skin, whatever. And the bottom line is, sexism is bad, but you already knew that, right?
Ah! Oh god, that sucked. Wait, why can't I move my face? And why does everything look like it's very crappily animated by someone with zero animation experience?
Why, hello there, mysterious stranger. What brings you to my yard?
So you must be this universe's version of SpongeBob. And I guess this universe doesn't have a film buff.
I'm gonna go ahead and not question why you know my name, but instead question, what are you doing here, and what's your name?
My name is Film Buff, and I come from another universe. I'm trying to find my way back home to my universe, but I have this portal gun, and, well, it doesn't really tell me what universe I'm in.
I may know a thing or two about portal guns. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Rick Sanchez.
Yeah, I know who you are. There's one of you in my universe, too.
Oh, well, that's good to know. Well, in this universe, I made some portal guns, so if you would allow me to see said portal gun, I could get to work and be able to fix it so that you know exactly what universe you are in.
Really? You'd be willing to do that for me? This universe's version of Rick, who for some reason can actually do science?
I assume that your universe's version of Rick doesn't do science at all.
Yeah, he's really just an old drunk.
I'm also an old drunk.
Oh. Sorry.
No offense taken. I'll see you later. Bye.
What the frick was that?
Well, Film Buff, I guess you're gonna be here for a while.
Yeah. Well, I hope this place won't suck like the last universe I went to.
What was the last universe you went to?
It was the exact same thing, only there was no humans.
Exact same thing as this universe?
No, not your universe. What I meant to say that it was the exact same as my universe where I come from, except there were no humans like me.
Oh. So it just consisted of us cartoon characters?
No. Not cartoon characters. We had puppets.
We have puppets here too.
Wait, what?